Welcome back to AniPeeps. Today I'm your host Boggs, and along with me I got Mr. Mighty Mo, and just us two today. But first off, how are you doing?
Been great, man. Besides pulling my back today, doing some nonsense with my dad, but should be a fun
Oof.
one. It's the first duo show between the two of us. So
Yes, indeed,
actually,
indeed.
I don't think I've done
Yeah,
one
I think
with
this
Boom
is
yet
your.
either.
Yeah, I think this is your first duo one. And yeah, this is
Hmm.
definitely my first one with you, but shouldn't be an issue because today we'll be talking about some fun stuff. I guess today we'll pretty much be talking about some animes that we would recommend to people new to anime, whether it's like newbies or someone who's maybe not even seen a single anime in their life. But before we do that, let's go with the picture of the day. This is a progress we see. You know, you start as a newbie and eventually, you got slowly become the weebs. Chasing the sauce. I guess
So
I guess from left to right you kind of go into the more weeb, I guess. I guess
yeah, yeah,
you know
yeah.
that like
The one,
the sauce of
the
the
main
sauce of
guy
the sauce.
chasing. Yeah, main guy chasing is the dudes in the Instagram comments, and the rest of us thinking their comments are the reporter and the cameraman.
Yeah. We all strive to be the guy up front with the sauce, you know.
Yeah.
It must feel good of these guys like they make a good like montage or some funny they make a funny meme out of a clip or something, or you know how like on Instagram they'll do like the sad music and then they'll have the sad scene, just like normal social media stuff, but when they get comments of like sauce they probably feel pretty accomplished, like, all right,
Yeah,
I cooked
especially
this.
when it is something kind of niche.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Like, all right,
you're like,
cool,
yeah,
cool, I
you don't
cooked
know
it.
about this.
If you're uploading though, it's your duty not to gatekeep. You know, you gotta share the love. Um,
Yes, sir.
but yeah, I guess so today we will be talking about a I guess stuff we would be recommending to newbies, right? So I guess before we get into like so we have three each that we'll be talking about, three animes. And I guess before we start that, I kind of just wanted to ask you how you feel or what do you think about when you I mean, I guess when we talk about like recommending animes, because I mean, obviously, it kind of depends on who you're recommending to and like what maybe, like what you recommend your friends versus say like your mom would be different. And also, I guess it depends on how in deep they already are. Like some shows you'd recommend a semi newbie, you probably wouldn't recommend to like a super newbie that's maybe seen like one anime movie in their life and nothing else.
Mhm.
But yeah,
Yeah,
what do you think about it?
yeah, it's definitely hard. I always try to ask the person, like what they're into, whether it's like what kind of sports are you into, what kind of shows do you watch on the regular, what do you do for work, to just kind of gauge their personality
Mm-hmm.
and then try to go from there. I think there are always classics that you revert to
Mm-hmm.
that I think anyone, can start watching. May or may not have one of those in there that we'll mention, but I mean, there are just some that are so friendly to anyone to get into. They're not,
Yeah.
so in your face anime, a little more like a normal story with just drawn cartoon characters instead of some of the wackier, crazy plot lines that you can get with anime.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Because there's some stuff that like for someone that's really new to the medium, it might seem weird. Whereas like maybe even if you
mhm,
watch like 25 anime series and slightly broaden your range, you kind of see it as a more commonplace and not like, oh, this is that weird anime shit, because there are definitely stuff
yeah,
that is, from like it is like an anime fan would tell another different anime person like, nah, you're into that weird stuff, which I understand, but you know, gotta kind of gauge their personality, their taste, and all that. But yeah, today we will be doing the most bare bones one, which is, recommending to newbies. And this one's kind of a hard one because this is like super general. We're not going to be talking about whether you recommend to your, friends, family, coworker, etc. So, but I guess I'm sure you're the same. We pretty much try to pick three animes um, that kind of somewhat reflect our tastes in some shape or form, or at the very least shows that or movies that we like. So, because I mean, I could recommend something that I personally don't like, but I know the general public does like. And that would still work as a recommendation, but we're trying to keep things kind of into our taste, so we'll pretty much be talking about series that each of us like. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I guess without further ado, I guess I'll start it off with my first one. And my first one, first let me get rid of this. My first one will be Vinland Saga. So, I guess I could give like a brief synopsis for those maybe who haven't seen the series, but I mean, super popular, I guess, series, and a bit on the newer side, which is nice when you're kind of recommending series just because it's like a clean aesthetic that they could just kind of jump into and enjoy. But I guess the main premise is kind of like a bit more like medieval, if that's the right term for I guess the setting.
Mhm.
But yeah, we start off in Iceland with a young lad, Thorfinn. He's a son of a very kind of powerful warrior and a pretty well known one, and he grows up hearing, I guess, like tales of this place called Vinland, which is said to be a warm, fertile place, pretty much a super peaceful place where there's no need for fighting or war. And it's kind of like far off in the area where you don't have to worry about invasion and stuff like that. And Thorfinn growing up in like a frozen village, pretty much living in an area where war is a commonplace. It's pretty much like the dreamland. So um and I guess, I mean, slight spoilers. I mean, I guess we won't go into like that, but a lot of stuff happens, and Thorfinn, as some situations lead up to others, he ends up kind of becoming part of like I guess the army, and he pretty much becomes a killing machine. And compared to his dad, where like I said, he's a legend. He has like very strong history, is super respected as a warrior, but he's always told Thorfinn that, you know, you have no enemies, and try to ingrain like the pacifist mentality into him. And we just see Thorfinn's journey of his ups and downs, going through the bottom of the bottom to trying to find self peace. And yeah, so that's kind of the synopsis of this. And like I said, I chose this because it's a more new series, easier to jump into. I think it's a series that's, I guess, a bit more like different tastes could get into. You got some great action. I mean, who doesn't like Vikings? It's kind of like the medieval settings that I think a lot of people do enjoy, with especially with themes involving war and stuff like that, which is pretty much why I use it as my first pick for recommending to newbies.
Hmm. Yeah, nice and like historical. I think that's like an easy genre
Yeah.
that people go into. But some amazing storytelling and, like you said, some awesome fights as well. So it's a little bit of everything. I think if you've seen anything like, I mean, maybe not as complicated, but anything like Game of Thrones, there's an Amazon, or there was a show back in the day called Vikings as well, like
Hmm.
kind of that same deal where you're exposed to a village and seeing them come against their opponents and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
great pick.
And
It's funny you mentioned this one. My coworker actually is telling me that she's been watching this one with her husband recently.
nice,
So
nice. And like,
yeah.
that kind of goes to show that's broad. I mean, you said she, not to kind of generalize per gender, but it's I mean, it's something they're watching together too. So,
Hmm.
uh and like you said, it's just like a super epic show. It's not something super serious in regards to like plot, I guess, but it's got the political stuff, the super epic stuff, the philosophical stuff, and like the question of why do we fight kind of thing. So I think it is a
Mm,
pretty overall good um newbie intro to anime. So yeah, that was my first pick, and sounded like you agreed. So I guess we'll jump
sure.
into your first pick, and your first pick is
Mhm.
Afro Samurai.
So, yeah, so I kind of went down similar route of the action and historical.
Mm-hmm.
The story takes place in kind of like feudal Japan, but it's also in the future where basically there's like the number one headband and the number two headband, and the number one headband is held by the person considered to be the strongest warrior,
Mm-hmm.
and they're said to have like godlike powers. Some even think it grants immortality, and so everyone is going after the number two headband because the number two headband wearer is the only one who is able to challenge the number one. But
Gotcha.
anybody can challenge the number two. So you can kind of see it there. Afro here, the main character, his dad was the original owner of the number two headband, and then he was murdered when he was a kid. And so that kind of sparked his adventure and the story of revenge of him going to get back the number two headband to get revenge for his father, and then go and eventually try to claim the number one headband.
Pretty
Um,
simple, not simple, but not power system, but like the system's pretty established and kind of easy to follow. Like you said, anyone could challenge two, but to challenge a top dog, you gotta kind of get the second one.
yeah, and a super short one as well. That's part of the reason I
That's a
picked
good
this one
point.
is I think it's a 5 episode series.
Mm-hmm.
I think the manga's two, so like you can. I think they also have a movie version of this as well if you prefer that. But basically, less than 2 hour commitment. I mean, within the first episode, I think is when he gets the number two headband. So from there, it's just him kind of fending off people before he can make it to fight the number one headband guy.
Nice, nice.
Um, this one's cool too. It's got some kind of like interesting facts. The fact that Samuel L. Jackson, I'm sure many of you guys know him from a lot of Quentin Tarantino's movies. He actually voices Afro Samurai and Afro Samurai's like sidekick, and then the RZA from Wu Tang Clan produced the soundtrack for the series.
Nice,
So
nice.
these guys saw the like. I think there was a guy creating figures for the show, and then or there's a guy creating figures. The author's friend was creating figures, and then a studio saw these and was like, "Oh, this is cool. Let's try and like create a mini series out of it."
Oh shit.
And then Samuel L. Jackson saw the trailer and was like, "Yo, I want to be a part of this." Especially for the time. I mean, there wasn't many black characters in
Yeah,
anime.
and not to mention
So
during this time, like you know, this especially compared to now, how not as mainstream anime was. So Samuel
mhm.
Jackson definitely saw the vision.
Yes, sir. That man, he's onto it, man. I think I've seen clips of him, not maybe in the last 5 years or so, talking about waifus and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So
he's a big fan of hentai.
he's oh, that's what it is. Yeah, yeah. He's hip with it.
Yes, yes, he is. Yeah, another
But
nice shot here. But yeah, I think
mm,
I think good pick, and good point you mentioned is how kind of short it is. You could easily finish it in a day, and kind of like got kind of like the Western merge with there. With like a black main character, so something a bit more maybe for some people easier to watch. And also, I guess both of our picks so far is a bit more on somewhat more on the realistic side, not like
mhm.
super anime. So I think that kind of it also is a thing sometimes you kind of want to consider when bringing recommending stuff to people new into anime. So uh, so yeah, that was your excuse me, that was your first pick, and my second pick will be Fate Zero. So hear me
Hmm.
out, because I know, you know, I have my reason for this. Uh, so I guess to start off, just a quick synopsis. The premise is it's kind of like a battle royale with seven pairs of two, where you got like a master and a servant. Masters are like typically some mages, and they have like a servant that they summon that will take part in this what they call a Holy Grail war, which pretty much the winner gets a grant a wish. And what's interesting about this is like the serving servants are like real historical figures, or I guess maybe fictional characters in like historical writing. So you got like um Alexander the Great, you got Gilgamesh, you got Medusa. So much like different characters that people are already familiar with, which I think kind of might make it a bit more interesting to people. And also kind of down the same line with Vinland Saga, super epic. This is a bit older compared to Vinland Saga, but the visuals are great. And I picked Fate Zero because I feel like, generally speaking, people do tend to like Fate Zero the most. And Fate Zero also has a bit more of like the um it's not purely, I guess, like the magic based system, because you got Kiritsugu like being more of the strategist, actually like shooting people with guns. So they got like gun action, if that makes any kind of sense. um but yeah, I think the battle royale aspect of it makes it really fun to watch. This isn't too long. Fate Zero is just like two 13 and 12 episode series. And this is a bit more on the anime side compared to, say like Vinland Saga, but this is also like a very popular mainstream one. So I think it'll be like a pretty easy one to recommend. And so yeah, I know the big question is like, Fate's confusing and all that, but that kind of is also what I considered when I selected Fate Zero for my selection. Is because if you don't like Fate, if you watch Fate Zero and if you don't like it, it's kind of like, okay, like it just wasn't for you. But this is just one of those where you can watch the first like Fate Zero and Fate Zero season 2 fairly quick, and then if you like that, there's so much more you could do. Instead of like immediately jumping to the next, you could be like, hey, yeah, like if you want to know like the original series, Fate Stay Night, that one is the fifth Holy Grail, and Fate Zero was the fourth Holy Grail war. And then if you don't want to recommend like the older Studio Dean one, you could just like check out Fate UBW, and if they like that, you could just keep recommending more, and then you could if it misses, it misses. But it's just one of those series where if they do like it, they have so much more to watch, and they could really dive deep into the rabbit hole if they're super into it. But yeah, I think this captures anime pretty good. Great action, got like mana systems kind of stuff. So I think it is a bit more quote unquote niche compared to I guess like something a bit more broad like Vinland Saga. But yeah, that's why I picked Fate Zero.
Yeah, nice, great pick. I mean, yeah, it's like it's simple but complicated at the same time. Like at the end of the day, it's just a battle royale, and like you
Exactly.
said, every character's kind of got their specialty, and definitely, I think Fate Zero does better to dive into like the servant classes and stuff like that. So I think this is, if you're ever interested in diving into the Fate series, this is probably the best place to start.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, like you said, Fate Stay Night being as old as it is has some issues, but yeah, I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's just really just a battle royale with
Yeah.
really fleshed out characters, and yeah, like you said, the that was my original hook is like the historical figures that are drawn into the stories, and like
Yeah.
the mild spoilers, like their ultimate moves being like some of their ultimate moves or what they're famous for. in history as well.
Mhm.
So um, it's like some good creativity
Yeah.
from the creators here.
Yeah. And then, you can like kind of start talking about like, oh, who is your favorite servant? Like if you were, you could talk about like if you were a master, what servant would you summon, blah blah blah. So yeah, it also gets like the discussion going, but totally agree with everything you said. And yeah, pretty much for that reason, I chose Fate Zero. So that was my second pick, Fate Zero. And on to Mr. Mighty Mo's second pick, and that is IQ. Nice.
IQ. Yeah, I felt like I don't know. There's something special about this anime for me. It's really one of those where you can just turn your brain off and watch. The story follows the middle orange-haired guy Hinata, being I think he's supposed to be like 5'2", 5'3", um, trying to become an all-star in volleyball, and he got inspired seeing someone who's just like him playing in the national finals for volleyball. So that's what got him started playing, and he makes it to Karasuno, which is what used to be. That was the same team that he saw on TV with that kid who's called the Little Giant. So he's trying to kind of recreate that legacy with this team, and it's just kind of your classic underdog story in sports.
Hmm.
But the big thing that I love is like this isn't one of those super exaggerated sports animes where these guys have special powers
Yeah,
or crazy moves or anything like that. I mean, they do some impressive stuff,
but
but it's
it's
all
nothing
within the realms.
outrageous. Yeah, it
Hmm.
ain't Blue Lock or it ain't like it's my legend type. Crazy,
Yeah,
crazy.
like Kuroko no Basket. What's I don't can't remember the English name for that one, but that one too. I've heard that one's got some crazy skill moves and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I mean, super easy watch. A lot of good wholesome comedy.
And it's sports, right? So you know,
Hmm.
sports is like an
Yeah,
easy thing to sell, and also like you mentioned, like who doesn't love an underdog story?
yeah. And I mean, if you love volleyball, great. This is the anime for you. If you don't, this might get you wanting to play volleyball too. So,
Hmm.
like, before I watched this, I played like casually with friends, but after this, I went and signed up for a volleyball class
Oh,
at
nice,
college because I
nice.
was so hyped up to play. And then another one too is like this is for the guys and the ladies.
Yeah, yeah, that's a
The
good
guys
point.
just for the competition in the sports, and I mean the main allure for the girls are just the handsome men.
Playing sports. Yeah. No, that's actually
Yeah.
a super valid point. Cuz I mean, you don't even have to be a sports guy to enjoy a sports anime, but uh
Mhm.
I wouldn't say it helps, but like say I never played volleyball. I mean, I used to watch like pro volleyball as younger, but even if I didn't like, I could being someone who likes sports, just watch volleyball. And at the end of the day, it's like a sports story, but it just happens to be volleyball. So, super easy to pick on. Uh, and on the, uh, like you said, the female side, the girls definitely do love these characters and they get to pick their oshi, the one they're simping for, I guess.
Yeah, no, that was Haikyuu. Not much else to say. I mean, this is probably the most popular one that's going to be on this list.
Mhm.
Um, People have probably seen, probably haven't. At least it shows up on Netflix constantly.
Yeah.
But I just got to sing its praises for how good I think it is. So,
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Great second pick, Haikyuu. And for my final pick, I picked a anime movie, and that is Tokyo Godfathers. Um, I initially I did want to pick a movie, and I was thinking of a few others. Um, but I picked this one because I really do enjoy this one, and it's a bit on uh I wouldn't say unknown, but it's certainly less I guess well known than some of like your major big anime movies. Say like your Studio Ghibli or like Shinkai Works. Um, but yeah, I picked this one because this one is some. This one is one like during the holidays, like Christmas. It's one that you could watch with like family and friends. This is one that I wouldn't say like Disney, but it's kind of like one of those you could watch with like a very diverse group of people and all enjoy in their own way. It does have quite a bit of like some dark humor, but it is like a very uplifting and wholesome, I guess, Christmas movie. I guess the main premise, you got our three main characters, and on Christmas Eve, and they're pretty much homeless. Um, they're homeless people that kind of are looked looked at with looked down upon by their surroundings just because they're like homeless people, and they find a baby and they kind of just take care of them, um, and kind of eventually try to find clues and kind of backtrack to find the parent, and all that stuff. But um, yeah, it's just like a super wholesome one. It does have like a very great message of like what matters is on the inside. You got like three homeless people who are like deep down very kind and loving and caring people, and just seeing like the how the three their kind of relationship with one another, the friendship, and kind of like being a parent father figure, or like I guess like a mentor kind of, is also great to watch. And a lot of it, I think, too, what makes this movie great to watch, especially during the Christmas season, is just like the ambiance to it, the setting. It's like snowing, kind of dark, nighttime with kind of like bright lights, like you see. And yeah, it's just such a fun movie, but also a super heartwarming one. And how movies are, you could just turn it on, hour and a half later, you're done and move on to the next. But yes, really good movie. So
Mm, nice. Yeah, I haven't got a chance to watch this one. You've sang your praises about this before offline, but I mean, just looking at the picture, it looks so cozy, so wholesome.
mhm.
Like you said, three homeless people, but it seems like they're really doing their best to make the most of their lives and enjoy themselves.
Yep. And yeah, it's just also super goofy, and it got some dark comedy here and there, which also makes it great. So yeah, that's my third pick. Tokyo Godfathers. And that being said, your final pick was, I think you said, a movie too.
Yes,
Yes, it
went for a
is.
movie as well. After I mentioned that to you, I went with Summer Wars, another kind of older, lesser well known movie.
Hmm.
I actually watched this one on my flight home from Japan a couple months ago, and it just kind of it captured me. It hit me pretty hard, especially because of some of the themes, some of what happens in the movie.
Hmm.
I was just leaving my grandma, but basically, the story starts off with um, the guy. I can't remember his name off the tip of my head. I think it's Kenji.
Hmm.
He's part of like a math club and is also a moderator for this massive like virtual reality world called Oz that has its hand in like everyday life. It controls like pretty much everything. People sign in through this and people work and communicate through this system, but also it has its own VR world of like people being able to game and stuff like that. But so he's like super gifted in math and works part time for that. And that's kind of his thing. And then the main girl there, Natsuki, she asked him to come home to her house for her or her hometown for her grandma's 90th birthday and to pretend to be her fiance
Hmm.
because she's been getting nagged and stuff like that. Pretty classic for all of us after we graduate high school and stuff from relatives about when you're gonna get married and all that stuff. But she basically has this like huge family, so many people. I think it shows probably like 30 or 40 people when you include like relatives and kids and stuff like that. But basically, they go there pretending to be that, and then after the first night there, Kenji gets a math code that's like it's encrypted, and then he goes to crack it. And because of that, it turns out that there's a hacker named Love Machine that ended up hacking the Oz infrastructure and starts to just cause chaos in the world. And then it's really cool because Natsuki's grandma is like so well connected. So they're kind of that's kind of where that word war comes from. Is as this AI is like wreaking havoc in the AI world, the grandma is just calling all her connects to kind of mitigate as much damage as possible. You know, getting people out in the streets, directing traffic, and all that kind of stuff. Kind of simulating war in a way. But Kenji and then Natsuki's cousin and someone else kind of all get together and they're just fighting this AI bot. And I think I'm butchering it. Is this one's kind of a hard
Yeah,
one
it's
to
a pretty
describe?
yeah, it's a
So
pretty not like wacky, but yeah, it's a tough one to definitely describe. And I'm also glad you
yeah,
mentioned this because when I was like giving my prelude as to why I chose Tokyo Godfathers, is like like I want to say like Spirited Away as an example. I was like, what if that's Mo's example or his pick? Um, but yeah, no, definitely worth the watch and definitely, like you said, it reminded you of like your grandma. Definitely like relatability to most people. And I also really love the setting, which is great. And also kind of, I guess, to both of our picks too, which is really nice is, like say you recommend Summer Wars, I recommend Tokyo Godfather, and, two still directed by two very, I guess, titans in the industry, but lesser known to the extent of, like you said, like, Ghibli and stuff like that. But, if they like it, you could also recommend some of their other works. And hopefully they like that. Because I watched this one after I watched, either, I can't remember if it was The Girl Who Leapt Through Time or it was Wolf Children, but I know this is one that I watched after that. Um, but yeah, and then you could just kind of go through their works and kind of see what you like. So, and movies are always really great to recommend. If they don't like it, it's
mhm,
like cool. It was like an hour and a half, no biggie. So,
yeah, and yeah, the animation in this one's awesome, especially in the when they're in that what's that called, the virtual world.
mm,
I mean, they're just going crazy with the fights and stuff like that. So
no, great pick,
very
great pick.
cool.
You got a second
Thank
pick?
you. Yeah. I didn't do this justice, guys. If this if this one interests you, definitely go to the wiki page and give a little read on the synopsis. Try to avoid spoilers as much as you can. I did go into this one blind when I went to watch it,
Mm-hmm.
so I mean, all everything caught me off guard
Which is
with
nice.
like the VR world and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I think this is one of those movies where there's no problem going in blind. I
Mm-hmm.
think sometimes it helps to go in a little bit with some stuff with an idea of what the film's going to be about, but
Well, sometimes it's good
this
to
one I had
jump
no
in
problem.
blind. Even this one, even if you get like a kind of basic understanding of it, still full of surprises and all that. So, just
Yeah.
one of those movies. But no, I loved your picks. Um, I guess, I mean, at first I kind of was like, maybe we should do one where we pick maybe the worst selection. But honestly, I don't think there was a like bad recommendation. I think both of us had like a good reason to and had like, solid picks. So,
Hmm.
um, yeah, no, I think
Yeah.
we could avoid that. I think any, I mean, I haven't seen Haikyuu or Afro Samurai, but I'm sure, like if you, I mean, I probably would check it out. Maybe not Haikyuu because it's a bit longer. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, so I mean, yeah, I don't see any issues with any of the stuff we put out today.
No, yeah, same. I think Fate surprised me a little bit,
Yeah.
but I think it's well deserving of being on here as well.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, it's definitely daunting for newbies to get into, but it's one of those that once you jump into it, like then it just makes so much more sense. Like you just got to expose yourself to the first bit of it, and the rest of it just kind of falls into place. So
Yeah. And then, it's like if they like it, they could continue. And the nice thing about that too is like some routes, I mean, you could just explain and just be like, yeah, just watch Fate Zero or maybe UBW, and if you don't like it, that's that. and you don't really need to, because I mean you could really say like, no, you should watch the Studio Dean original one first and then Zero, but you don't really need to. So just recommend Zero, and then if they do like it and go down the rabbit hole, then they will slightly get more exposed to, I guess, like the more anime stuff. Like they could, maybe if they watch like UBW, they watch Heaven's Feel, and they watch like the erotic Sakura scene. Um, and they might even get into like Prisma Ilia and all that stuff. So or like the cooking spin-off, and that'll be kind of like their intro to slice of life. So yeah.
Mhm.
uh
Yeah,
but yeah, I think both of us try to keep it pretty, I wouldn't say basic, but we like not super acquired, quote unquote acquired taste kind of shows, so, or
yeah,
movies.
yeah. Not super niche, but at the same time, I think we did good to avoid some of the more obvious ones.
Yeah.
Naruto, One Piece, Death Note. I think those are some of the ones those are the ones that initially came to mind. But if you're googling,
It
what anime to
Yeah,
watch,
like
that's
it
probably what's popping up
they've
first.
heard it.
So
They've heard it before, like, oh no, check out One
yeah,
Piece. It's like, I mean, both of us love One Piece, but that can't be like the first thing you recommend. Hey, yeah, just
yeah.
watch 1,000 plus episodes and check back in with me. So
Maybe when the Wit remake comes out, we might be able to start suggesting One
yeah,
Piece,
because I mean,
but
like
in its
even
current form.
a friend that both of us have, he watched the live action one, and I've been really trying to push him to read it at least. I'm like telling him like, dude, there's so much like mystery, crazy stuff going on right now. I want you to catch up so that we could talk about some of the stuff before in a few years the series ends. But yeah, I digress.
Yeah,
Um, Great pick, Mo. Thank you for joining with me today, and also thank you to our
sir.
viewers who listened. Any final words, Mo?
No, I mean, great picks. Viewers, comment which ones you liked. If you got any suggestions as well,
Yeah, definitely
don't
love
forget
to
to
hear
like and
that.
subscribe.
Nice, nice. All right, see ya.
Peace.